CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert for Trae Young. You guys heard me right. CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert for Trae Young. And this just happened about an hour and a half ago, maybe. I didn't check the exact time, but Shams just recently tweeted this out. And it looks like the deal's been finalized. And Trae Young is going to be a Wizard now. Wow. That is a crazy statement. And I was going to make a video about this tomorrow because I know Trae said that it was his preferred trade destination. But a lot of people were like, why would he want that, you know? And I was going to say, like, I actually think that it might be good for him in the long run. But it already happened, and now I'm making this video tonight, actually. I think on paper, it looks like a huge fleece for the Wizards. And I'm going to talk about it a little bit more, why I don't necessarily think that that's completely the case. But it does look that way right now. Immediate thoughts is if CJ McCollum is gonna stay on the Hawks, or if they're gonna go ahead and try to move him and get some assets in return. He could be a good sixth man coming off the bench. You know, CJ McCollum still produces all right for his contract and his age, but we'll see what happens with him. But now I want to focus on why I think this is actually really good for Trae Young. And we got to talk about how he's been struggling in Atlanta. You know, they tried to partner him up with another guard, DeJounte Murray, a few years ago, and it didn't really work out for them. They got one postseason together. I believe that was the year that the Celtics won it all. They went against them the first round, and they pushed them up all the way to 6 games, but obviously it wasn't enough. And since then, they decided to move on from DeJounte because at the next season, I believe both of them got injured. And when one of them was playing, they did better than when both of them were playing. Didn't matter which one, but they decided to obviously keep Trae because he was their franchise guy, and they moved DeJounte over to the Pelicans. And then Trae got injured, and they were just all right last year. Obviously, this year they've looked pretty good without him. He comes back, and now they're struggling a little bit. And he's getting scapegoated just a bit because Trae Young has always been a defensive liability. But now that their defense was all right, but their offense was making up for it, since he's been back, their defense has gotten worse, and now people are trying to blame him and put the fingers on him and say he's the problem, which kind of fair, kind of not fair, if you understand the context of it. Now, Trae and the Atlanta Hawks have decided to move away from each other, and Trae's actually been given a pretty good opportunity for what it is. A lot of people are like, well, the Wizards are the worst team in the East, and maybe that's fair. Maybe that's fair to say. But he also gets to come into this team with no superstars, and he gets to be the guy. And even better, he's got a second-year player in Alexander Sarr, who's a great big man, obviously developing well, and now he gets to partner with him. Point guards love their big guys. On top of that, if he stayed on with the Hawks, he wasn't going to get any better. You know, he's already been having offensive struggles trying to get back into their system, which hasn't been tailored for him this season. And so now moving on to the Wizards, he has some chance to, you know, bring up his stock a little bit. And even better, he has a team option with them. And so even if he decides that the Wizards aren't working out exactly how he thought, he has an opportunity to prove that he's still got it in him, you know, try to get that points per game up, those assists per game up. And if he can do a good enough job, maybe someone's willing to pay him the money in the offseason. But I think that the team option is probably the reason why this deal is actually so good for him, because now he gets to stay with this young core for the rest of the year. And then they're probably not going to do anything crazy, even if they do make it to the play-ins. I don't know if they'll make the postseason, but next year, he'll get the opportunity to choose if he wants to stay on the team and see how these guys progress for one more year, or if he's ready to move on somewhere else. I bet he takes that team option just because the money's so good, and who wouldn't want to take a gamble on this third-year Alexander Sarr and these up-and-coming rookies. I do see the world where Trae Young accepts his team option and the Wizards run it back for one more year. And hopefully next year they can make a top 8 splash. We'll see what happens pending injuries, pending any other moves. It'll be a great opportunity for Trae Young to still show that he's the guy, that he's got it, and that he's worth the amount of money. Immediate reaction is I do think that this is a win-win for both teams, just because the Hawks have obviously looked good without Trae Young, and for a while now they've been debating if they want to move him or not. But because he carried them to that playoffs, or to that conference finals, the 2021 year, when the Bucks won it all, like, I think they've been holding on to that and just saying, you know, if we were just a little bit more healthy, if we had a little bit more luck, and obviously it hasn't turned out that way. Whether or not those statements are true, they haven't been given that opportunity, and so they can't really prove it and keep riding this idea that maybe Trae Young can lead them somewhere, because frankly, it hasn't looked good since he's been back. and that's okay. I don't, like I said, I don't think it's Trae Young's fault, but it's good for them to have moved on away from him. Do I think that the Hawks could have gotten a little bit more? Maybe. It's really hard to tell nowadays, especially with like superstars. I feel like everybody's lowballing the superstars, and when you want those like pretty good role players that are just above average, that's when everybody's fleecing the market. I mean, look at Desmond Bain and Mikal Bridges. They traded like 6 or 7 first-round picks for those guys, and then for Jimmy Butler, they got basically nothing in return. And then now for Trae Young, they haven't really gotten much in return, right? In terms of the Hawks, Trae Young wasn't really producing very well, and his defensive ability wasn't there. And so getting some guys like CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert just helps extend their bench a little bit and also gives them a little bit more defense ability. As for the Wizards, I mean, they're just upgraded point guards, you know. Say what you want about Trae Young, but he's still one of the best point guards in the league. And to go from whoever they had before, I'm sorry, Wizards fans, I don't know, but whoever they had before to Trae Young, like, that is a huge upgrade. I'm truly hoping the best for Trae Young. He's a really great offensive player and super fun to watch once he's in his rhythm, you know. And I hope that he can bring some of that Ice Trae magic back when he's in Washington. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Who knows? Maybe they might be able to go on a sneaky little win streak and make the play-ins this season. In the East, it's kind of always open, but we'll see what ends up happening. Thank you guys for watching the video, and I hope y'all have a great rest of your day.